Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to be diving deep into all things Alex Hormozi. You guys sent over a ton of interviews and clips, so I think it's safe to say you're ready to unlock some serious financial success, and I have a feeling his insights on wealth creation and mindset are really going to resonate.
Absolutely. And I think what's so compelling about Hormozi is his ability to really break down complex concepts into actionable steps. He doesn't just talk about wealth. He provides a roadmap for getting there.
Yeah, totally. And, something that really jumped out at me was his take on the broke mindset. And it's not just about a lack of money, right?
Right.
It seems like he's saying it's this whole way of thinking that holds people back.
Right. He argues that the broke mindset actually distorts your perception of reality. And that leads to you making bad decisions, missing out on opportunities. And it's all about focusing on low leverage activities instead of, where you should be putting your time and resources for the biggest impact.
Got it. So someone with a broke mindset might work tirelessly at a low-wage job, but never even consider investing in skills that could unlock these higher-paying opportunities.
Exactly. It's like he uses this example of working at McDonald's versus someone who brokers a multi-million-dollar real estate deal. The difference isn't their initial capital, it's their skill set.
Oh, that's interesting. That reminds me of his example of the phlebotomist. Can you maybe explain how that story highlights the importance of investing in skills, even if it requires maybe a small loan?
Of course. So he talks about this teenager who's working at a bowling alley who wants to become a phlebotomist, and they could either, spend weeks saving up for that certification course, or they could just take out a small loan and pay it back fairly quickly with their increased earnings. And that's the essence of investing in a high leverage skill. A small upfront investment can lead to huge returns later on.
So it's not just about working hard, it's about working smart and strategically. And that's where skill stacking comes in, right?
Yeah, exactly. Hormozi really emphasizes the compounding effect of skills. Each skill you acquire builds upon the previous ones, and that just amplifies your value, your potential. He compares it to building blocks. Each one adds to the structure, creating something much greater than the sum of its parts.
It's like he says about Jay-Z.
Yeah.
It wasn't just his rapping talent. It was that he just kept learning new skills, producing marketing, leading, and each one multiplied the value of the previous ones.
Exactly. It highlights the importance of being a lifelong learner and embracing different disciplines. The more skills you have, the more adaptable you are, the more valuable you become, and that's how you become unstoppable, as he likes to say.
To become unstoppable in the entrepreneurial world, he emphasizes 3 core skills: selling, building, and leading. Why are these skills so crucial?
These skills, they're not just important in isolation, but they work together to create a huge synergy. So selling involves persuasion and influence. Building requires you to create value. And leading is about inspiring action and guiding a team towards a shared vision.
Oh, that's interesting. It's interesting how he uses the example of a successful dog walker to illustrate this. It's not a glamorous business, right? But this guy is making bank by mastering these 3 core skills.
Absolutely. This dog walker understands how to effectively sell his services, build a loyal clientele, and even manage a team to scale his operation. It just goes to show these skills lead to success in any business, even something as simple as dog walking.
And Hormozi actually takes this a step further by calling leadership a meta skill. What exactly does he mean by that?
He believes strong leadership amplifies the effectiveness of selling and building. It's not just about managing people, but it's about selling a vision and inspiring others to take action.
So great leaders are, in a sense, also great salespeople because they can rally people around their ideas and get everyone moving towards a common goal.
Exactly. And this requires a deep level of self-belief and confidence. You can't inspire others if you don't first believe in yourself and your vision.
So what about taking action? Hormozi seems to be a huge believer in jumping in and proving yourself through real-world results.
Oh, absolutely. He emphasizes minimizing the time between waking up and starting your work. It's about prioritizing that focus time towards your goals, whether that's early morning or late at night.
Yeah, he has that very compelling example of that single mom with 5 kids who manages to build a thriving business just by squeezing work into every available moment.
Yeah, it really is a testament to dedication and maximizing your time. It's about output over unproductive rituals.
Totally.
Yeah.
And he also mentions this study about mastering new skills within 20 hours of focused effort.
Yeah.
What are the key takeaways from that research?
It really highlights the importance of overcoming inertia and just starting. Those first 20 hours are so crucial for building momentum and overcoming the fear of the unknown.
So proving to yourself that you can actually learn and adapt, and that in turn boosts your confidence.
And speaking of confidence, it seems like a recurring theme with Hormozy is this idea of like pushing past your comfort zone and tackling these huge ambitious goals. He breaks down like how to actually reach that seven-figure mark in business, which can feel
Yeah, it can feel really overwhelming to a lot of entrepreneurs.
right.
How does he suggest approaching like such a big goal?
He encourages us to reverse engineer the math and like break it down into those smaller daily actions. So for example, if you want to make $1 million, you could think of it as 1,000 sales of $1,000. Suddenly it feels a lot less intimidating, right?
So instead of getting bogged down by like the enormity of the whole goal, you just focus on those smaller steps that you need to get there.
Exactly. He emphasizes identifying customer lifetime value, setting those clear sales targets, and then figuring out, okay, what are the actual actions I need to take to hit those targets? And he even lays out like 6 key methods for customer acquisition, referrals, affiliates, one-on-one outreach, content marketing, unpaid ads, and paid ads.
So he's giving you the framework, but ultimately it's about choosing the methods that work best for you and then just executing consistently.
And he stresses that consistency is what separates like the 6-figure earners from the ones who break through to 7 figures and beyond. It's about building that momentum, overcoming obstacles, and refining your approach as you go.
It's about creating a system and sticking to it even when things get tough.
Hmm.
But of course, there's like an internal element to all this too. Hormozy's very open about his own struggles with these limiting beliefs around money.
Yeah, he said that a lot of those limiting beliefs are actually instilled in us during childhood based on misconceptions about wealth and success. And he really highlights the importance of like real-world examples and mentors who can help you challenge those assumptions.
That makes sense. If you've never been exposed to people who have achieved that level of financial success, it can be hard to imagine it for yourself. He calls this surrounding yourself with the SME 500. What is that exactly?
It's his term for the network of communities, coaches, and mentors that provide those valuable insights and that personalized guidance. He considers the return on investment from mentorship to be like far greater than any financial investment because it accelerates your learning and expands your possibilities.
And he's a big advocate for actually paying for mentorship. Why does he think that's so important?
He believes that when you pay for mentorship, it ensures dedicated guidance and it prioritizes action over just passive consumption. You're more likely to actually implement the knowledge when you've made that investment.
You're more invested in the process. You're not just passively consuming information. You're actively engaging and applying it to your own situation. And there's another interesting concept he brings up, which is this idea of global benefit versus local benefit. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, it's a framework for thinking about the long-term consequences of our actions, both big and small. He argues that a lot of people prioritize those immediate tangible rewards over the long-term ones, the ones that might not be as visible. So it's like choosing the local over the global.
So like choosing a slice of cake over going for a run, you get that instant gratification from the cake, but you miss out on those long-term benefits of exercise.
Exactly. He uses this example of salespeople who are reluctant to like put detailed notes into the CRM.
Yeah.
It's a minor inconvenience for them, but it actually hurts the entire organization. It makes it harder for finance, customer service leadership.
That's a great example. It shows the importance of like systems thinking, understanding how those seemingly small choices can actually have these ripple effects.
And it also ties into his point about delaying gratification, like that marshmallow test. The kids who could resist that immediate temptation of 1 marshmallow for the delayed reward of 2 marshmallows later on, they showed greater impulse control and were generally more successful in life.
So how can we cultivate this ability to think globally and prioritize those long-term benefits? It seems like a lot of it comes down to mindset.
Absolutely. And, Hormozy is incredibly transparent about his own struggles with this. He admits that a lot of his drive for success is actually fueled by this deep-seated need to prove himself and quiet his inner critic.
Yeah, he's talked about how he used to measure his self-worth based on his cash flow. It was that tangible monthly reminder of his success.
Which explains why he felt more poor after his exit, even with millions in the bank. Because that regular income, it validated his efforts and gave him a sense of security that he hadn't yet learned to find internally.
So it sounds like he's emphasizing the importance of self-validation. detaching your sense of worth from those external achievements and cultivating like a belief in yourself that's not dependent on external circumstances.
It's definitely easier said than done, especially in a world where we're constantly bombarded with messages that tell us, our worth is tied to our achievements.
So how do we move away from seeking external validation and cultivate that internal sense of self-worth?
He emphasizes finding your why, that deeper purpose that fuels your actions and gives meaning to your work. For him, it's not just about accumulating wealth, but about sharing his knowledge and empowering others to achieve their dreams.
It's about leaving a legacy that goes beyond personal gain. It's interesting because even though he advocates taking calculated risks in business, he also admits to being risk-averse personally. How does he reconcile those two things?
He sees it as like choosing the option with a chance of success over the guarantee of failure. His decision to quit his job and pursue entrepreneurship was a calculated risk. He knew that corporate path wasn't going to lead him where he wanted to go.
So he's not saying just be reckless, but carefully consider the potential outcomes and choose the path that aligns with your goals, even if it feels uncomfortable.
And he's open about the fact that he still has those doubts, especially when he's not seeing that consistent cash flow. But he's actively working on like rewiring his thinking, shifting his focus from those external achievements to the intrinsic value of his work and the impact he's making.
It's a process, not a destination. And his willingness to share those struggles, I think, makes his advice so much more relatable. He's not presenting himself as someone who has it all figured out. He's on a journey just like the rest of us.
And he's clear that in order to reach that next level, to scale his business and achieve that billion-dollar goal, he needs to let go of that need for external validation.
He's recognizing that that reliance on external approval is holding him back from making those bolder decisions and taking bigger risks.
And that's such a crucial insight for anyone in business, If you're always seeking validation from others, you'll never truly own your power. It's only when you trust your instincts and believe in your vision that you can really step into your full potential.
So it sounds like he's encouraging us to define success on our own terms and not based on what society dictates.
Absolutely. It's about aligning your actions with your values, pursuing goals that are meaningful to you, and using your talents to actually make a difference.
So it's about more than just building a successful business. It's about building a fulfilling life.
And recognizing that we all have that potential to create something extraordinary, to leave our mark on the world, and to achieve a level of success that surpasses our wildest dreams.
It's inspiring to hear someone who has already achieved so much, still striving to grow and evolve, both personally and professionally. It shows that success isn't a destination. It's that ongoing journey.
And it's a journey that's available to all of us. And it starts with that shift in perspective. Instead of dwelling on what we lack, we can focus on what we have to offer, on the unique gifts we can bring to the world.
It's interesting how even though Hormozi has built this incredible business, he's also like really philosophical about wealth and legacy. He doesn't shy away from like talking about death and what happens to our money after we're gone.
Yeah, he has this unique perspective on legacy. He almost suggests that it's this attempt to cheat death by like creating something that outlasts our own, finite existence.
It's like we're trying to leave some kind of permanent mark on the world, but he uses this thought-provoking analogy to kind of challenge that idea.
Yeah, he compares it to a poker game. Like, we accumulate all these chips that represent wealth status achievements, but at the end of the game, those chips, they stay on the table. They don't come with us.
Yeah, it's a humbling reminder that those things are ultimately temporary. What matters more is how we play the game. The connections we make and the impact we have on others.
Right. And this leads to his pretty radical idea about a 100% death tax.
Right. He actually thinks it could be beneficial for society.
Yeah.
Why does he believe that?
He argues that knowing we can't take our wealth with us could actually motivate us to use it more wisely while we're alive. We might be more inclined to invest in causes we care about, support innovation, create a positive impact.
So it's not about punishing success. It's more about encouraging people to use their wealth in a way that benefits society as a whole.
Exactly. He believes individuals are generally more effective at allocating capital than governments, and that a 100% death tax could incentivize a more thoughtful and impactful distribution of wealth.
It challenges us to shift from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset, to see wealth as a tool for creating positive change, not just something to like hoard.
Yeah, and it connects to his strong belief in the efficiency of private enterprise. He argues that individuals driven by their own purpose and passion are better equipped to solve problems and drive progress than large bureaucratic systems.
Makes you really question what success means. Is it just about how much money you accumulate, or is it about something more,
It's a question we all have to grapple with, and I think Hormozy's journey encourages us to look beyond that material wealth and consider the legacy we want to leave behind. What impact do we want to have on the world? What will people remember us for?
And he's achieved, this level of financial success that most people only dream of. But he still emphasizes the emotional toll of losing that regular cash flow, even after a significant exit.
He talks about feeling more poor after selling his companies for millions because he missed that regular validation and that sense of security that came with a steady income.
It highlights how deeply ingrained that need for financial validation can be, even when you've achieved so much.
Right. It's a reminder that true wealth encompasses more than just our bank accounts. It's about finding that purpose, meaning, and fulfillment in what we do.
So it sounds like Hormozy is urging us to align our actions with our values and pursue goals that are personally meaningful, not just chase those external measures of success.
Absolutely. He emphasizes that lasting fulfillment comes from making a contribution, leaving the world a little bit better than we found it. It's a philosophy that really resonates with his entrepreneurial spirit.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive into Alex Hormozy's world, what are some key takeaways that our listener can maybe reflect on?
I think his journey reminds us that extraordinary success is possible regardless of our starting point. It's about embracing possibility, challenging those limiting beliefs, and taking consistent action towards our goals. But it's also about defining success on our own terms and finding that fulfillment beyond just the material wealth.
He really challenges us to examine our relationship with money, consider the legacy we want to leave behind, and use our resources to make a positive impact on the world.
What stood out to you most from all this? Was there a particular concept or idea that really resonated?
I think it's so fascinating how he combines these practical business strategies with deep philosophical insights. He pushes us to think differently about wealth success and the impact we want to have.
Yeah, and he leaves us with this powerful question. What one belief, if you could eliminate it, would unlock your full potential and accelerate your progress? You know what's holding you back. What story are you telling yourself that might not be true?
That's a great question to think about. And I think, as we've seen, Hormozy's journey shows that anything is possible when we believe in ourselves, challenge our limitations, and commit to taking action.
His story is really an invitation to redefine what's possible, step into our power, and create a future that's aligned with our values and aspirations.
Well, this has been a fantastic deep dive. I hope exploring Alex Hormozy's insights has provided some valuable takeaways and inspired you to pursue your own version of success. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.